right, we are going to take a look here in this lesson about how to accompany a singer. And this really, what we're going to learn applies in a lot of ways. We're going to talk about how to read a chord sheet. If someone comes to you and gives you just words and chords, this happens a lot, especially if you play in church. If someone brings you a song and say, hey, I want to sing this, and they'll give you a sheet that looks like what we've got right here. We're going to look at Here I Am to Worship. It's a worship song by Chris Tomlin. This is just free here, right off of this website right here called Guitar Tabs. And it just has the words and the chords. And so, when I first started playing off of these, I had a hard time. And I was just a mess. And so I wish somebody could have, kind of explained what I'm about to explain to you today. So let's go ahead and jump in here. First of all, you need to be familiar with how to figure out your chords in any given key. But here we're going to be working with the key of D. But you need to be familiar. So this is kind of for, late beginner, early intermediate. If you kind of got a grasp on, when I say a D chord, you understand how to build a D chord. If I say an E minor, you know where to go and how to find that. You can fairly easily recognize the different shapes of certain chords, right? D, A, and so hopefully, you're well versed in those areas. If not, go ahead and take a look at our, keys, lessons on the different keys. We have one on the key of D. We have, lessons on those keys. So take a look at those if you're struggling. But we are going to be working in the key of D. So, understand we've got two sharps in the key of D, C and F. And so that's how we're dealing with, that's what we're working with here. Now, let's talk about that for a second. How do you know what key you're in? Someone brings you a sheet like this here. It doesn't have, first of all, it doesn't have timing. It doesn't have a key signature. It doesn't have notes. All it has is words and chords. And so, how do we figure out, first of all, let's talk about how do we figure out what key we're in. Well, hopefully you remember that in a key, you've got three major chords. And we're talking about, and when I say major, I mean main chords. And they are also major, as in not minor, but they're like the three main chords that everything kind of revolves around. That's your 1 chord, your 4 chord, and your 5 chord. So, let's say in the key of D. In the key of D, our 1 chord is off of the first note of the scale. So the D scale, think D scale. That's why you want to know your scales pretty well. So D scale, what's the first note? Well, that's the D, and so the 1 chord is the D chord. What's the 4th note? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the G, so our 4 chord is the G chord. And what's the 5th note? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the A, so our 5 chord in the key of D is the A. So in the key of D, we know we're going to be using the D, the G, and the A quite often. So what you want to do is look for the 3 main major chords that we run across. So let's take a look. And usually the first chord of the song is the key that the song is in. So here, the first chord is D. Almost always. Now there are exceptions, but almost always the first chord you're hitting is what key you're in. But say that's not the case. Well, then go ahead and look through the song and find out what are the 3 chords that are major that are played the most. We've got D, A, and then we see G, G, D, A, G. So, what key has the 3 main chords of D, A, and G? Well, the key of D, and that fits. That's the 1, 4, and 5 in the key of D. So if I were to give you a lead sheet that had, say, an A flat in there a lot, and a D flat in there a lot, a D flat chord, and then an E flat. And then you can go ahead and take a look and say, well, what key has the A flat, the D flat, and the E flat as their 3 main chords? The key of A flat has your 1 chord as A flat, your 4 chord is D flat, and your 5 chord is E flat. So that gives you that tells you what key you're in. Now again, it needs to be the major chords, and it needs to be the 3 that are used the most. And again, take a look at that first chord, and the last chord is usually a dead giveaway also. Now, there are exceptions, but for the most part, whatever chord you play first, whatever chord you play last, that's the key you're in. And if not, take a look at the other chords, and it'll kind of fit together. You'll figure it out as like a puzzle. And so, of course, being familiar with your other chords in the key is going to help as well. See, I see we have a D chord, I see we have an A, I see we have an E minor, we have a G. So what key has all those chords in it? And, the certain flats that we're hitting, the certain sharps that we're hitting. Like D has an F sharp, A has a C sharp. What key has these in it? But a G natural for G, and these other notes. If you're familiar with your scales and your chords, then you'll be able to figure that out easier. That's why I encourage you to nail down your chords. Get good at your scales and your chords is going to help you in all these areas. So we figure out what key we're in, and now let's figure out what the timing is. So the timing isn't in here, but if you have a rough idea of how the song goes, then what you want to look for is patterns of 4. 4/4, or 4. The time signature 4/4 is the most common time signature in music. So first, look for patterns of 4. If patterns of 4 ain't working, they're not fitting together, then go ahead and see if a pattern of 3 will fit in. If a pattern of 4 doesn't fit, it's almost always going to be a pattern of 3. Okay, let me give you a demonstration with, let's see, it's not a hymn, but it's not a worship song, but it's a hymn. Let's see, which one could I use? How about Blessed Assurance? Okay. So a 4/4 is not going to work there. You start looking for a pattern of 4 and Blessed Assurance. It's not going to fit. So what's going on? It's actually a pattern of 3. So it's da 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 1 2 3 1 2 3. It's actually 9/8. So it's 7 8 9 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 1 2 3 4 5 6. But you get a pattern of 3. So it's 3 3 1 2 3 1 da 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 1 2 da 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 1 2 3 da da da. So if it's not a 4, look for a pattern of 3, and then you'll basically be able to figure out what's happening in the song. So let's take a look at Here I Am to Worship. The verse goes like this: Light of the world, let's see. Light of the world, you stepped out into darkness. So let's take a look, and let's just see if we can find a pattern of 4 here. Ready? Light of the world, you stepped out into darkness. Okay, did you catch it? That light of the world you stepped. That's all the first measure. And 4 beats. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2. Let's talk about the end of the verse here. Now, what's happening here? Life spent with you. Life spent with you. 2, 3, 4. Here I am too. That didn't work. Something was wrong there. So what you can see, and maybe you didn't catch it, but what happened was we ended up with too many beats going into the chorus. This happens a lot. But after the verse, many times the end of the verse is the beginning of the chorus. And so this is actually this and this make up the same measure. So you hold out you, hopes, life spent with 1, 2, go, here I am too. I think I did 1 too many beats, but coming a little earlier, and then they go together. So life spent with 1, 2, here I for and worship. See that? So again, you're trying to connect these patterns of 4, and you want it to flow, and you don't want to end up with 6 beats in between the verse and the chorus. Is going to throw the momentum off of the song. And so you're always looking for, it's kind of like a puzzle. How do we fit the 4 beats together, and how's this supposed to go? So usually it'll come naturally, but you're going to get here, and because there's a G here and there's a G here, you're going to maybe think, oh, this is the end of, this is a measure, and this is another measure, and this is the measure. But actually, as you play it, and this is why you need to practice, go through it a few times, you'll play it, you'll see this and this are part of the same measure. It's 1, 2, 3, I am to worship, 3, I, 4, to worship, like that. And that's how we get into the chorus. So it's important, having the right timing there, because it leads momentum, it keeps the momentum going into the chorus. And you really want that, you don't want to lose momentum as you go into the chorus. And usually if you'll just play sets of 4, sometimes sets of 2, like that beginning, the D is for 2 beats, and the A is for 2 beats, and then E is for 4 beats. But if you can analyze it to find those patterns of 4 or patterns of 2, then you'll see it start to come together rhythmically. So that's how you can figure out what timing to use, and then also what key. Most of them are fairly simple. Now some may change timing in the middle of the song. Some may even change keys in the middle of the song. That's something we'll get to. But for the most part, they're fairly simple, just like hymns. Hymns are simple, and they're built on just a couple different chords. So are most worship songs, and even pop songs are fairly simple. And so they have a structure similar to this one. So now, what do we play? Well, a couple rules to remember when you're accompanying a singer. First of all, you want to play less when they're singing, and when they're not singing, that's when you can fill in or play more. Also, you want to lay a rhythmic foundation, or you want to emphasize the rhythm. So you move the song forward. They're going to hit and miss on the rhythm. They're going to sing some words before or after certain beats, but you need to be there on every beat. So like this. Light of the world, you step down into darkness. Open my eyes, let me see. I can't sing that good, but you get the idea that I'm not always singing on the beat. Sometimes a word comes in or before or after, and many times the singer will sing a song differently. It'll be their own interpretation. And so they'll sing a word early or a little late, and anticipate or syncopate the words, but you need to be there as you're accompanying them, laying a rhythmic foundation for them to build on. So just keep it simple. And that's the beauty of this, is you can back up a singer and sound good and do almost nothing. In fact, many times when someone's singing, it's better to play less, like I was saying. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so if you know your chords, just take a D chord. You can play it in any inversion. However, I suggest to play the melody note as your top note. This helps singers that sometimes maybe you're having trouble, following you as you play. They're going to hear that melody note. So I would, if I were accompanying a singer, I would keep that. This is where the song starts. Light of the world. And I would just go ahead and use this inversion of a D chord, and I'd play an octave in my left hand, and I'd pretty much hold the octave or play it twice with the chords, and I'd just play on the beat. 1, 2, and then it goes to A. So then I would move this hand to an A octave, and then move this to an A chord. Again, you can use different inversions, but the melody note moves here. So I would use this, the root inversion. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's where the melody note goes right there, so you can use this inversion. I'm playing a full octave right there. E minor, and I play it for 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so a couple things to remember. Play more when they're not singing. Play less when the singer is singing. Lay a rhythmic foundation and keep it steady. So, light of the world, So, light of the world, you step out into darkness. Okay, E minor's held for 4 beats. Then go back and do it again. Open my eyes, let me see. That's all you need to do. Now sometimes I'm playing an octave down here. Sometimes I'll play a 5th, like this, like I just did there. 1, 2, and it's up to you. I wouldn't recommend playing a 5th too low. Then it sounds a little muddy. So when you get down here, and of course you can't see, but I'm playing a low octave here in the A, the low A octave, but play an octave when you get down there, right? And that's basically what you do. Just play the chord, play the octave, and lay a rhythmic foundation. And you can get through the whole song that way. Some ways to add variation: come up the octave, all right? So maybe you play the first verse down here. And then the second verse, you come up here for a little variation. Now, if you can play the melody by ear, it's fine to throw it in there. Another thing that's a good idea, like I said, when they're singing, play less. So as they're singing "Light of the World, you step down into darkness," they hold out darkness, step down into darkness, open my eyes, let me see. They're holding out C, so you can build it up a little bit. Maybe you play the octave every beat. Open my eyes, let me 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're playing more when they're not singing or when they're holding a note out and filling in the gaps. Another good thing to do is follow as they sing. So again, if you can play a little bit by ear, you can kind of figure out that melody. So what I did there is I just followed and I played something similar to what they just finished singing. So they sing, "Open my eyes, let me see." So we're holding a G chord. When they're holding out C, I can follow them and play something similar to what they just sang. Open my eyes, let me see. Then we're back in. So you can follow. You can play when they sing a phrase, and you follow with the phrase, and you can even come up with one. Open my eyes, let me. So, filling in the gaps, following as they sing, all these are great and easy things to do. It's gonna make it sound great. You're gonna sound like a great team as you are answering each other, filling in the gaps, and laying that rhythmic foundation. And also, they're going to appreciate it too. As you confidently play on the beats, that's going to give them a foundation on which to build. So you're laying a rhythmic foundation. You're also laying a harmonic foundation. So you're setting the foundation of harmony. There's the chord. And if you're playing with someone who's singing a harmony part, like an alto and a lead singer, and they're gonna hear that lock in and know where their harmony goes, and it's gonna make more sense as they sing. If I'm playing the wrong chord and they're trying to sing a harmony part, it's not gonna fit. So you want to lay that harmonic foundation and the rhythmic foundation. Start by playing less and just lay that foundation. So just play this. Open my eyes, let me see. And they're singing. Now, let's talk about a few notes that really you can add to your chords to give it a much different sound. Some things, little changes that just change the whole, just make it sound really nice. So first off, let's talk about the 2 or the 9. Okay, the 9 of a chord, or the 2. It might be easier for you to think of as the second, because that's how it's very often referred to in songs like this, as the second of the chord. But what does that mean? Well, try not to get confused with the different numbers we throw around. First of all, we talk about the 1, 4, and 5, and that's referring to the 3 main chords in a song: the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. Then we'll talk about, the 5 of a chord. Okay, what does that mean? If I say the 5 of the D chord, well, now we're talking about the D chord specifically, and we want to know what is the 5 of the D chord. If I say the 5 of the A chord, okay, now we think A. What's the 5th note in an A chord? We've got the first. This is the second note when we're thinking in the A chord. Third note, 4th, and then there's your 5. So if I say the 5 of the A, we're talking about the E. And so it all goes back to scales. If I say the 5 of the A chord, then you think of the A scale. Well, we're not in the A scale. We're on the key of A. But while we're playing the A chord, we're going to use notes from the A scale. Okay? And same thing when we get to G. When we talk about or playing a G chord, we're going to use notes from the G scale. So if I say the 7, the 7 of a G. So what is a G major 7? Well, let's think. Here's the G scale, and where's the 7th note? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So when I say the 7th of the G, or the major G major 7 is what it's called, then it's actually referring to this note in the G chord. And you'll see that quite often. G major 7. It gives it, that chord, just a whole new sound, it's a whole different color of a sound that we're getting. Right? And so also we can say the 2, or many times it'll be called the 9. And the reason why is we count up from the 1, 3, 5, 7, then 9. I'm sorry, 9. Then this is the 11, and then the 13. Okay, you'll see that a lot in music. You'll see like a C13. What does that mean? What is a C13? Well, you just build the chord in thirds until you get to that 13th. Now, when you get to the 13, we're done. There's no more. As far as notes to add to the scale, the chord, let me show you. Let's talk about the key, the C chord for just a second. The C chord. Here's your 1 of the C. Your third, or your 3 of the C, your 5th note, or your 5 of the C, 7, 9, 11, 13. What happens if we go up another third? Boom, we're back home, and it just goes over again. And so, if you'll notice, if we play a C13, it's a dissonant chord because we're using every note in the C scale. C, D, E, F, G, A, C. But that's a C13. It's got all these notes in it. So when I say a D9, well, let's go ahead and figure it out. There it is. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Now, what we'll usually do is we'll play the D with the E and leave out the 7. And this is the sound you'll get. There it is. It's just beautiful. When you just play the E with the D chord, it's many times referred to as the second. So you'll see a D2, and it'll mean D and throw the E in. It's a very beautiful sound, and it changes the whole dynamic. So, and it's not going to throw your harmony off because it's a consonant sound. It's not going to throw your alto singing like, oh, that sounds wrong. It's going to work. And you can do that with your major chords. And you can do it even minor chords, but let's talk about our major chords first. So on every major chord, I can throw the 9 in, and it sounds very pretty. Okay, so we've already talked about what's the 9 in the D chord. Oh, it's that E. A chord. Okay, so let's find the 9 or the 2 in the A chord. You might recognize it's just the note above the 1. Because if we stack it all up, here's your 7, there's your 9, like that. There it is. It's just the note above the 1 of the chord. So you just throw it in. There it is. So here's the sound it's going to give you. 1, 2. So add that to your chords. You can also add it to your minor chords, and it's going to give it a very unique sound to your minor chords. You're going to use it. Be careful where you use it, but it's really pretty. Let me show you what it sounds like on a minor chord using the 2. Okay. Here's my E minor. What's my second note? There it is. Really pretty. These notes they're dissonant, but in this context, it's very pretty. But you're going to see, you're not going to want to use it every time, and you'll wherever it sounds good to you. So let's go ahead and try it. I don't like it there. Of course, the melody note is here, so it's, if you can play it in a different shape, like down here, so you can throw that 2 in down here. Let's see. So, again, you can put it on all. I would not put it on all the chords. That way it stands out more where you do put it. So if I'm playing it on every... It's not popping where I do put it. So use it here and there. It's something you can add to it. Another note that I want to tell you about that you can add is the major 7 of a chord. Now, we've got 2 types of 7 chords. Actually, more than that. But let's talk about the 2 main types you're going to find. It's a dominant 7. That means it's a major chord, but the 7 is lowered. Okay, so what's a 7 of a chord? Well, again, think of the scale. So if you're talking about the D7, think of the 7th note in a D scale. There it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if I were to say play a D7, play a D and add the 7th note of the scale to that chord. Now, a dominant 7 is when the 7th note of the scale is lowered. It's a major chord. So it's a major chord with a lowered 7th. There's your dominant 7. Okay? But let's talk about major 7, meaning it's not lowered. It's just the straight 7th degree of the scale, the major scale. There it is. This is a very pretty color you can give to your chords, and you'll hear it. This is quite often used as well. So let me demonstrate it. I'm going to throw the major 7 in on the D in Light of the World. Ready? Here it is again. Ready? Okay? Now, you can add this to your 1 and your 4 chord. You don't want to add it to your 5 chord, though, because the 5 chord is actually the dominant chord of the key. And so if you add a major 7 to your dominant chord, you're not getting you're not getting the sound of a D major. So it's going to kind of alter the tonality of the song, what tone we're playing in. So add the major 7 where you think it sounds good, and it's a very beautiful tone. Add it to the 1 or the 4. So let me add it to the 4 chord. Open my eyes, let me see. I'm going to throw it in on that G on Open My Eyes, Let Me See. Right here. Ready? Open my eyes, let me see. Oh, there's an E. Here it is again. Your major 7. And again. Okay, so again, it's not appropriate everywhere, and it's definitely use it at your discretion. And so experiment with these 2 magical, I'm telling you, they're magical notes. Throw the 2 in, throw the major 7 in, where you feel where it sounds good to you, and experiment here and there. But there's 2 options, the 9 and the major 7. So we talked about figuring out what key we're in, what the timing is, laying a rhythmic foundation, laying a harmonic foundation following the singer, playing more when they sing less, or playing less when they're singing more. All these